Welcome to the February the 6th, 1996 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you the history of our city for some of the important people that have helped to make that history and also that are continuing to make history. And we are very excited. This is the month of February, and because of that, we are saluting Black History Month. And we have a wonderful composite of very important people from the Black community that have represented Grand Prairie so well over the years. And we're just really pleased to bring this history tape, and it's going to be about Dalworth Dragons, David Daniel Elementary School, and etc., relating to that particular era of our city. And we're real pleased now. Mr. David Daniel, welcome to this set.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
This isn't your first appearance on our show, and we're really excited about this wonderful group of young men that you brought with you. You bet. All right, Mr. Randolph Reed. Randolph, we are really glad to bring you front and center today. It's great to have you with us. And Reggie Brown, we've caught you on here so many times before, and it's pretty hard to shake hands from afar, but we're glad to have you back too, Reg.
Glad to be here.
Oh, you bet. And Keith, we are so pleased to have you with us today.
Thank you.
It is exciting to have the principal of, I guess, what was the old Dalworth School, but is now David Daniels Elementary, soon to become, I believe, a magnet school.
That is correct.
Oh, that is wonderful. Well, Mr. McGill, we're just really pleased to have you with us, and it's going to be exciting what we're going to make of this show, honoring Black History Month in 1996, and y'all are our first. David, I guess you would have to be the ranking member of this group, the senior member, probably the VIP of this group. And so since you're first, we'd just like for you to look out into your camera and just say something wonderful about the Dalworth community and what it has meant to you over the years. Would you do that for us?
Thank you. It is easy for me to speak about Dalworth. I came here in 1939, and I have met some wonderful people. I did have some problems. I thought we didn't have any trouble with the parents in the area. Today, parents will assume whatever the student tell them when they get back, if it's against the school, for the school. The parents gave me the authority to punish kids that didn't do as they asked them to do. Or if they, while they're going to work, they had to ask me to see that they attend school.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of going in the back and going in and see little feet wiggling under the bed, pull them out, bring them to school.
And make them come to school?
Make them come to school.
Oh.
And then, if I was singing soprano, can you imagine me singing soprano? I was singing in the church choir and would look out in the audience. If some little fellow's playing with one, all I had to do is shake my head.
Shake your head. They knew what that meant,
That's
didn't
right.
they?
And sometimes would say, well, I want you to whip this boy because he didn't act right in church. And they're there, you know.
And would the parents obey you and follow your orders?
They would.
Oh, that is wonderful.
I didn't disappoint them.
Well, watching some of those young people grow up in the Dalworth area, after all, since you were there from 1939 on, have you had lots of good experiences, mostly with parents? Have you had lots of successes, David?
Yes, I've had many successes. I was with United Charities and on so many different boards that, and I believe you are a person in the draft. I can't say no to you whenever you.
Oh, that's good. Yes.
You ask me to do something.
Yes.
So I'm in the post PTA, and I enjoy doing the work. Pardon my. I have a tooth that's bothering me.
Oh. We're not going to let that tooth bother this history show, though, are we?
All right, no.
See, that'll be a historical happening, won't it? All right. Let's go to Randolph, and we're going to get back with you in a few minutes, David,
All right,
and let you bring us a little bit more up to date. But now, Randolph Reed, you have been very, very important. The Reed family is well known in Dalworth. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your family, about your parents, and how long you've been in Grand Prairie, and just a little bit about a little bit of history, and recap that for us, would you, Randolph?
Well, unfortunately, I was born in Grand Prairie.
That's it.
And that's been some years ago. My father was a minister, AME minister, and we traveled quite a bit. That gave me an education. I knew ended up being a Texas history teacher. I knew so much about Texas just from traveling.
Yes.
And my aunt, I have quite a few aunts, but one of my aunts was instrumental, worked in Grand Prairie and knew quite a few people.
Well, you would drop her name on this tape, wouldn't you?
Right.
Give us her name.
They moved here from Oklahoma.
All right.
And I was just fortunate enough to get a job working in Grand Prairie. I knew Mr. Daniels. I was growing up, and he gave me a chance to teach, and from then on out, I stayed to from 1954 to 1986.
54 to 86, that is a long tenure. And all of that time, were you teaching at Dalworth? Were you teaching history?
No, I taught at Dalworth only 11 years, and I ended up my teaching career at Lee Middle School.
Lee Middle School,
Right.
Okay. And along with this Texas history that you were privileged to teach, I know you were coaching.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about your coaching.
Okay, Mr. Daniel hired me, and he told me when he hired me that he's getting ready because he knew we were going to have a high school the next year. That was 1954.
Yes.
In 1955, we went into a high school.
All right.
I was instrumental to be the coach, the only coach at that time. And at the beginning of the year, football season, so I had 15 players, or 15 boys. It wasn't 15 players because the coach had to practice with the boys to make a nucleus of a football team.
Yes.
And from there, we went on. We won the district basketball championship in 1955, 56. And then the next 2 years, Mr. Jackson came. Then 1958, Mr. Red Brown, 56, 57.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown came,
Yes.
and Mr. Grant came. And the next year, 1958, we were playing for the state football championship.
Yes.
And I thought that was a little feather in my hat. We had the honor of having about 5 players to play in professional football from Grand Prairie.
All right. And all of those at some time or the other were under your coaching.
Right, at Delaware.
Oh, that is great. We're going to get back with you in a few minutes.
Okay.
We'll name drop some of those folks because I think that would be wonderful to talk about. All right. Reggie, you've got to tell us about following along in these footsteps. And when you came along, what did you do at Dalworth?
Well, when I came to Grand Prairie, I guess I was kind of migrated to Grand Prairie.
All right. How old were you when you came to Grand Prairie?
When I came to Grand Prairie?
Were you already a teacher?
No, when I first came, I was working for Red Ball in Dallas because I had turned down a couple of jobs and because of travel and away from home. So
All right.
I finally come down and was talking to Prof, and he said he had some openings. So I asked him about the job. So at that particular time, we didn't have to go downtown to the main office. In fact, the first time I saw the superintendent was at the faculty banquet we had. Mr. Daniels hired me and told me, I'm going to make Randolph need some help.
Yeah, way to go.
And I signed on, and we began to work, and Randy and I become pretty close, and then we had Adolph Jackson. He was another member of the coaching staff.
Yes.
We all kind of blended in together and had one friend of mine, instead of pulling apart, we had a little cohesion. We pulled together, and through pulling together, we was able to get the most out of the kids, because if one said something, that meant that all of us had said it.
That's it.
And we didn't have a problem with the kids, and of course, Randy and I was, I guess, the hatchet man, because if a kid did something wrong, we'd take care of it.
That is right.
And like Prof said, I have went to a kid's house and got him out of bed and brought him to school.
Yes.
From laying up there, didn't want to come to school, he wouldn't get up for his mother. But she said, here come Coach Brown. He hit that floor and put them pants on and be brushing his teeth on the way to school.
Uh-huh.
So we build a nucleus, and we also build a lot of character and a lot of pride in the kids at Dalworth. Prophets had all the parents covered, and we covered the kids.
That's it.
Because we had to break up a lot of things that was non-conducive to learning when we first got there, because, heck, we called home one time to a kid's house, and his mother said that she told him to be to school. We know he wouldn't, so when he come to school, Randy bust him anyway. So we cut out all that,
Yes.
and we build confidence in the kids, and we build where a respect that right now that we still, when the kids want to do something, they'll call and ask you. So I think we did an adequate job of the kids we had, and there's no point in talking about the success that we had out of the kids, because we took kids that had less talent than most people around here and beat the crap out of them because they wanted to.
Yes, yes.
So.
Well, along with your football and all of your athletics that you had at Dalworth, did you teach other subjects?
Yeah, I taught science and math.
Science and math.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's tough. Is it tougher to get the kids to toe the line to the science and math as it was into the football arena?
Well, yes, in some cases. Now, you have the same thing there. See, kids doesn't like to be embarrassed.
That's it.
And in a classroom, they're going to do as you ask, because they know you, they know what you stand for, and they know what they can get away with and what they're not. So when they come to your class, they're going to put out extra effort to do whatever you ask them to keep you from having to do it, especially when the girls are there.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that problem.
Randolph Reed, you were considered really the first coach after Mr. Daniel at Dalworth, first full-time coach. Now, I know Mr. Daniel was the principal, he was a teacher, he was the coach, he was the parent, he was a composite of all of those things when he first came into Dalworth. But you, as the first coach, what are you most proud of as being a coach there for all of those years?
Well, I'm most proud of all the kids that came up under my supervision as a coach and as a teacher. There are some people everywhere that would go wrong, but we had such a cohesion with kids that they were afraid to do too much wrong.
Yes.
They were afraid that we might hear about it. And so that way we had like a clamp on them, I guess you say. And they respected us for that, not because we would blast them or anything, but because we made them respect us and we respected them. And the first thing was to do is teach respect. And when we had that, we had so much success as athletics because we taught respect in all of those.
David, since everything else was come to school, be productive, what do you think would have happened if they had not had David Daniel there? Because there were many of those boys and girls that didn't have shoes. Many of the boys and girls didn't have the right amount of food to eat. And I understand David Daniel dug down in his own pocket and bought shoes and clothes. And how do you feel about the kids that came up during that era when you were such an important factor in their lives? Not only did you teach them, and you kept them in school because of the contributions that you've made in that direction.
Well, it was a pleasure for me to first. Some of the kids didn't have proper clothes, they thought, and they would get into the classroom and almost just go to sleep. And the only thing I could do, I'd go to Grand Prairie United Charities. I could get a discount. Finally, they started giving me clothes. And I'd tell the boy to come by my house at night.
Yes.
And not let the other kids see him get to school, the clothing. And he'd come in the next day and he's just proud with tie and everything that goes along with it if I could find it. One privilege that I have and I enjoyed, I drove the bus to Prairie View. And when I got to Prairie View, we would have the boys assigned to certain places. I didn't have any trouble with them going out, away from the campus. It was just really a privilege. Another thing that I'm thinking of, we had 4 high school graduates in the history of Delaware before we opened the high school in Delaware.
Only 4.
Only 4.
In all of those years.
Now the rest would get on a bus and go to Dallas and go through the hallway and go to a movie.
Oh my.
And some would miss a bus. If they played football in Dallas, I would go over and get them so they could play football. Roosevelt, Watson, and my memory's off on the other boys. But I enjoyed working with them and enjoyed supervising them. We carried them to Mexico, the seniors to Mexico.
Wow.
I think Brown made a trip.
Yeah.
Reed, you made a trip.
Yeah.
And the seniors, they would wash cars and raise the money for it.
All right, how about your churches down in that area? I know that St. John's and some of the others have helped you tremendously when you call on them for assistance with the boys and girls. You get pretty good cooperation over the years with your churches.
Oh yes, when I first came here, we had a first and third Sunday church, and a first and second and fourth.
Yes.
And we were members of both churches. I was a Baptist Methodist and Methodist Baptist.
Way to go, way to go.
We sing in the same choir, and we didn't have any lights. Had a little 2-inch pipe running in, and McElhaney charged us $1.50 flat rate. And if the person didn't pay the $1.50 a month or wanted water and hadn't paid his $1.50, then he would cut the line off. But we had lamps, and it was difficult for me I was rooming with Mrs. Timms. It was difficult for me to get lights because she was afraid of electricity. So I had the electrician to assure her, just put a light in my room. And finally I got some lights, and
Yes.
we had a radio then, and we
Yes.
could play it and kick our heels a little bit. You know?
Yes. Well, Mr. Reed, what did the boys and girls do for entertainment during the time that you taught at Dalworth? I mean, way back from the good old days.
That wasn't too much entertainment. When I first started coaching, I didn't have an automobile. I had one boy who had an automobile, and some days, some nights after football practice, most on the weekend, the boy's name was Floyd Denson. We would go out, put a carload of them, and we'd go to Dallas to the Majestic Theater and go to the movie.
Yes.
And well, that wasn't that wasn't too much entertainment, but after we, the community built up, there were a few dances on the weekend they would have.
Yeah.
And after football game, we would have a sort of little social for them. That was sort of bringing everybody together.
Yes. All right, let's get on back down to Reggie. Reggie, of all of the boys and girls that cycled through your life, what are maybe one or two of the most memorable ones?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. I had a lot of them that I remember, but the ones that I think impressed me more, I guess, probably be, I had Perry Pruitt, I had Scooter.
That's Scooter Reed.
Yeah, and
All
then,
right.
then I had Melvin Calloway, and of the older kids, I had Charles Tillman, I had Ernest Turner and Lee Jones. Those kids today, if they're in town, they call me.
They do.
Or they come by to see me. And then I had one kid was a good kid. He didn't play many sports until he got in about the 10th, 11th grade. And that was Mitchell Wayne Saunders. He was a good kid, had a lot of potential, but he didn't have many people to push him. If he'd had some push, he could have went places, I think. He could have did the same as Ernest and Charles and Joe and the rest of them. So,
You had a lot of famous football players that cycled through you and Mr. Reed and Mr. Daniel, right?
that's correct. I mean, I was just thankful that Prof gave me an opportunity to work with those kids because of the time that when we started with them, they was in bad environment. See, we was out there before we had paved streets.
Yes.
So we
Before urban renewal.
Yeah, we had to fight that mud. You had to wear 2 pair of shoes, one to walk in the mud with, and the other one put on after you got to school. And believe it or not, we had good attendance because kids wanted to come to school.
Yes.
They wanted to be with the rest of them. Yes. And of course, you do that by having good people, setting good examples for them. And everybody out there knew that Prof was going to do everything in his power to help the kids, help the parents, and everything else. And then when we fell in, we fell in the same shoes. And of course, first year we coached out there, we didn't get any money. Next year we got $200. Well, heck, we're spending more than $200 feeding the kids.
You bet. You bet. Keeping them alive.
Feeding the kids, kids don't have anything to eat, and you're going on a trip, you're not going to let half of them eat and the other half not, so you're going to have to reach in your pocket and pay for it.
That's right.
So, I mean, I couldn't just pick out one kid and say he was the best.
All of them were good.
All of them, in my attention, they did. I think we only had 2 bad apples that I can remember that I lost. I say I lost them, and I wouldn't call the name, but those were the only 2 that really went bad.
Yes.
And the rest of the kids, they did something. Right now they work. They don't do nothing else. They don't lay around. They work.
They go for it.
Right today. So I think, all in all,
All right. David remembers something. We've got to hear from David, and then
Okay.
we're going to get to Keith for a minute. What is it, David?
Well, we had a bus driver that worked at the hospital, and in order to get him to drive the bus, I would bring, when we got into the community, I would get the bus and drive it around, and each girl, I would wait until they got in the house before they could,
Oh, yes.
when they got off the bus,
As a protection.
as protection. And of course, the boys could walk home.
Oh, yes.
So they kept, the mothers said after I left, or before I left, that if the bus is going and I wasn't going to the game, the girls couldn't go.
Way to go.
So I would sit on the bus, I'd sit in the back of the bus all the way, or if we stopped by at a drive-in to get food, a bunch of kids band want to close up,
That's
I would collect from every one of them. No one could go back and
Till
get
they'd
something
paid.
with something he's already purchased.
Yeah.
I keep all of it. So we had they believed that I would do anything to help them, and they knew I would get a hold of them if they didn't.
You were the boss. All right, let's hear from Keith now. Keith McGill is now the principal at Dalworth, Old Dalworth, which is now David Daniel Elementary. Now, you've heard all of these wonderful stories, Keith, and I'd just like for you to look out into your camera and tell what you think that the history that has been left for you at Dalworth is meaning and can mean to you in the future. Anything you would like to say about your school?
All right. It's an extreme honor for me, first of all, to be invited here and to be on this panel with such distinguished men and to serve as the principal of David Daniels Elementary School. You can tell through comments that they have made that they had a lot of love not only for their job but certainly the community at large. And certainly I hope that I can live up to a part of that tradition.
That's great. And you have great hopes for the new magnet school. We have about a minute and a half left. Anything else you want to say about the future history of Dalworth?
It's really wonderful that Daniels Elementary has been designated as Grand Prairie's first magnet school. Central office administrators, along with parents and teachers and others, are working pretty diligently to get it up and running in a very positive manner.
Oh, that is great. And it's just so wonderful to have you as the principal. Now, we've interviewed you before, but not on a day such as this, because we catch Keith when he's out at South at the new teacher luncheon and brings in all of his new teachers, and it's just been so wonderful to see him meld into the community, even though he lives in Arlington. But we're going to work on that, aren't we, Reggie? Yeah, we're going to have to proselyte him from Arlington over to Grand Prairie. But gentlemen, I want to thank you all. You all have been so meaningful to so many young people, not only in Dalworth, but on to Lee Middle School, on through Grand Prairie High School, and on out into the world. I'm sure that the influence of this panel in the middle will go on for many, many generations. And I want to thank you all for the time you've given today to come and help us celebrate our first 1996 Black History Month on this television show. We've done this for many years, and we hope that our camera people will pick up that wonderful picture of the Dalworth Dragon football team that we have there. That is an archive photograph, and I think we have Reggie in it, and I believe that we have Mr. Randolph Reed in it, and I believe we have David in it. So Keith, you and I are the only ones that are not in that wonderful historic photograph there of the Dalworth Dragons, and maybe we could run our credits over that. And I want to thank you all again for being so wonderful to come today and for being a great part of our wonderful city.
Thank you.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do. Now y'all are supposed to talk to me till they run our